one of our first practical videos for 2024 that we're going to drop on the channel is 3 hacks for long-term health that are probably worth exploring, optimizing going into the new year. I think these things are probably a little bit more of the subtle wear you down over time, and you will notice benefits pretty quickly. Some people who are more sensitive will notice them much more quickly than others, but these 3 big critical things are not crazy hard to do, and I think for the most part, most individuals can really get into them. And I want to jump into the first one. One of the biggest things you can do is get your water supply dialed in. By that, I mean, get rid of the tap water idea that is something good for you. You've really got to focus on getting filtered water in your life, not only your drinking water, but ideally investing in your shower at the minimum, because your body absorbs through your gut as well as through the skin, subcutaneously in your mouth. Like, it's just taking in the chemicals, the toxins, everything there is. And standard drinking water is just, unfortunately, not that clean. If you've ever seen the inside of a water pipe that goes into a building, you can clearly see like why you wouldn't want to drink this water. The other thing is all the water that goes out through the toilet is then processed and treated. And yes, it is treated well. I'm not saying it's not treated well, and I'm not saying you're going to die drinking tap water, but why put that in your body when you can really level this up? Basically, what you're doing when you drink tap water is you're asking your liver and your kidneys to try and do all the filtration for you before you consume the water yourself. So why would you do that when you can actually go in and put up some specific barriers to reduce the amount of stress and load you're already giving your kidneys and your liver from other things that you take in throughout the world in your day? So a lot of people intuitively, I think, understand this, but they're like, well, it's going to be expensive or it's complicated. There's a lot of challenge with solutions on what we can do for our drinking water. And I'm here to tell you it's really not. A couple things you can do. One, and this was the first thing I implemented, was just get yourself a Berkey filter. And a Berkey filter is a stainless steel, high quality carbon filter. A lot of people use them for camping, things like that. You can use it to sort of filter out your drinking water in rivers. And the Berkey filter is pricey. It's going to be anywhere from $400 to $500 at the time of this recording, but the quality of the carbon filtration of the water in a Berkey filter is much higher than the quality of something like a Brita or a pure water filter that costs you $40. It's 10 times the cost, but the filtration and the parts per million that are allowed through the filters is much higher. So you're giving yourself a much cleaner source of water. Now, bonus points if you want to add a fluoride filter to your Berkey filter, which comes separate. And usually it's about $80 more, but I do recommend them. 14 years of my life between Washington State and Texas, both those cities will use the EPA guidelines for adding fluoride to your water, which will go right through the carbon filter. And unless you have a way to filter fluoride, you're drinking fluoride. And there are studies out there that are very clear that show there is a neurotoxic effect of fluoride in your drinking water. You do not want to be consuming fluoride. It's a chemical. It affects your brain health, your long-term health. It can damage your kidneys and your body. You just want to get that out of your drinking water. Fluoride for tooth health and overall health is pretty questionable, and the benefits of consuming it and absorbing it through your whole body are far and far most likely going to be a lot less important than just getting it out of your drinking water. So Berkey's number one. I have a Berkey. So this is the Berkey. Inside you'll see big carbon filters here. You load the water in here and then it filters out. You can add extra carbons, but it's going to add quite a bit of your cost. You can see the chain here of the carbon filter going down to the fluoride filter. You have to add the fluoride filter. But also, if you want to level up from that, Berkey's can be a little bit excessive in filtering out all the minerals. They're better than like a reverse osmosis filter. If you do reverse osmosis, you got to be very careful with remineralizing, and you need to make sure you're getting that. Otherwise, you will be flushing your body of magnesium, potassium, calcium, and sodium, because the water that comes out of reverse osmosis is literally just H2O without the minerals. And we need to be drinking water with minerals. That's part of what our natural water supply was and is. And so you need to be getting minerals to add to our RO filtered water. The level up is ordering spring water in glass. If you can find a source near you, in Texas, I use water.com. They deliver once a month. I put in their website, I want this number of glass carboys. They come straight from the spring. It's clean water. It has the minerals, the calcium, the magnesium, the sodium in the water. So I'm not worrying about stripping my system of those minerals. And it's not in plastic, it's in glass. There are microplastics that leach into water, and those plastics will then go into your system and start to disrupt your hormone function. That's drinking water. Shower water is a little bit trickier, and bath water is even more difficult. Look, we're not gonna get too much in the weeds here, but I would say you can get an Aqua Bliss or some kind of just basic carbon filter. At least put your water that you're showering under, that you're rinsing your entire body on, that's going into the pores of your skin and into your eyes and into your entire body. At least put that through a carbon filter. Something basic like an Aqua Bliss will cost you around 35 bucks. You literally just screw off your shower head. It comes with the plumber's tape. You put this apparatus in between that, and boom, you're now filtering your shower head and water, and at least catching some of the toxins in the water, the heavy metals, some of the birth control, some of the chemicals that are flushed down the toilets that are not getting fully treated out of the water, and it's giving you a bit of a barrier there. You can't be perfect with it. With bathtub, it's even trickier. They don't really make a filtration system that's cost effective for people that live in apartments or homes that they don't own. If you really want to get to it, you got to probably look at something more custom. And if you're going to be taking baths a lot, I would recommend that you get filtered water, especially if you own your own home. Get rid of the fluoride that you're soaking yourself in. Try to reduce the chlorine intake. We didn't even talk about chlorine, but chlorine is also one of those things you don't want to be drinking that's added to the water to keep it clean enough to be tolerable and prevent bacteria from taking over and contaminating the water supply. That's another huge reason you want to get these carbon filters in there, is to reduce the chlorine intake that you're taking into your system. Long-term health implications: better for the body, better for your brain, better for your systems, your key filtration inside your body. Filter it before it gets to the body. Why not? It's a big investment. Number two is artificial light. Artificial light was invented about 150 years ago. And before that time, humans in our current Homo sapien form had been around for about 150,000 to 200,000 years. So we have evolved for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of generations to the natural light. And yet in a few short 3-4 generations, we've now been blasting ourselves with artificial light, artificial blue light, pre-sunrise. These lights disrupt our circadian rhythm. They disrupt our hormones. They disrupt our ability to sleep well. They disrupt not only that, but our energy levels, our hormone production. There's key signals in our skin that we have receptors for light, that if you're exposing yourself to all these bright lights post sunset, your body doesn't have enough time to really go into the production or the signaling to allow you to produce the hormones that you need. So there's a few things you can do. One simple hack is just to get really high quality blue blocker lenses. And there is pretty good research that just by kind of cutting the blue light that goes straight into the eyes from the source directly with a pair of lenses, even though it doesn't shield the overall edges of your eyes, is pretty effective. And there's an article that my buddy Matt, who owns this company Raw Optics, did that kind of shows you a bit of the research behind that. This is kind of a basic travel hack, something I use. I keep in my suitcase a pair of these for when I'm traveling. At night, I throw these on. What I like to do though is I like to use Philips Hue lights, and it's kind of a little bit counterproductive in the sense that there's some more increased EMF with the way that the Philips Hue lights work. What Philips Hue lights do is they have over 16 million colors, and you can zone and program them on your phone. You can literally just have your phone app programming the lights so you can hit a button at a certain time. You can even schedule it where you can have your house turn red. Just turn the lights all red at like 7 p.m. and every night it'll kick in. You can still do things, you can still watch TV, you can still be doing whatever you want to do. The intensity of it is very important, and that's really a big factor in terms of how it affects you. It's the same with exposure to light. Think about ultraviolet light or an infrared light. The proximity and the power wattage behind the light source can really affect if you get sunburnt, if you get benefits, if it's too hot, how you react and how you feel. So Philips Hue lights are low wattage, so they're low power. They can be adjusted to the color, so they can get rid of those disruptive disruptive blue light wavelengths that affect your skin and your overall circadian rhythm, so you can have a much better recovery sleep hormone clock going in your body. So long-term effects there. If you don't want to do Philips Hue, you can just get a red light. You can do incandescent red bulbs. You can find them online. You can also do just pure red LEDs that are low power. I find that Philips Hue is a little bit more favorable because they can change. And so if you want to have the flexibility of keeping a space where maybe, there's periods of time where you're going to be up later hosting parties, whatever you want to do things, then Philips Hue really gives you that flexibility. Or if you have guests and they're just annoyed because your only light in your bathroom is red, which I've experienced in the past, giving them the option with a Philips Hue bulb set can really make a difference there to help. And long-term health implications, think about growth hormone, testosterone, estrogen, your melatonin production when you sleep. These things have long-term implications on your health over time. You want to live for a long time and have a very vital, strong, lively health span, right? Not just gradually waste away and just get sicker and sicker and be longer. You want to be like vital and looking and feeling and being great for a long time. So investing in a $200 Philips Hue bulb set in your main area that you spend the majority of your time, or at least in your bedroom and in your master bathroom, so you can shift off those lights at night. They're on the colors that you need to kind of protect your circadian rhythm and your hormones, is a big deal. And I've been investing in this for probably the better part of 10 years now. And I feel like I'm a very good case for someone who looks and feels and is living it as an example of longevity as I enter my 40s this year. The third thing I want to talk about is EMFs. And I know there's some stigma behind it. I think that a lot of people don't necessarily put enough seriousness behind this. And there's so much going on in your world where you're like, well, what can I do? I've got a cell phone. I'm constantly using my phone. You've got an Apple Watch. You're getting exposed to this stuff all the time. And I want to just give you a couple really big low-hanging fruit things for your reduction of EMF. And here's my hypothesis behind this. I've read enough studies, I've seen enough things out there where I don't think that the cell phone companies, that the phone providers, the ISP providers have done enough research or have the right incentives to actually tell the public that these things are dangerous long-term for us. I think that these things are yet to be determined. I know when I was growing up in the 90s is when Wi-Fi kind of came along. We don't have a lot of decades of exposure of research to see the health implications of things like that. But we've seen a lot of anecdotes where, things like dogs will get cancer because they slept next to the router. Or personally, I have a friend here in Austin who used to fall asleep on his phone under his pillow, and he got a myoblastoma tumor in his brain. And he strongly believes that was the reason he got that tumor. Now, these are very specific anecdotes. I'm not saying that's you. I'm not even saying that's true. But there was a recent podcast with Lex Friedman and Jeff Bezos where Jeff Bezos said a lot of times when the anecdotes disagree with the data, the anecdotes can be true.
When the data and the anecdotes disagree, the anecdotes are usually right.
That's not to say that these are true points. In my opinion, there is enough information out there that we should be at the very least thinking, what if this is true? Why does it hurt us to not at least assume that there's some degree of truth here? And if there is, the simplest kind of approach to this is to go, hey, if EMFs are harmful and they do affect my long-term DNA health and integrity, right? Because the idea here is that you're exposed to electromagnetic frequencies that are not natural, that are not something, again, we've lived in an environment of only maybe 20 to 30 years where we've gotten this higher intensity of massive exposure and more chronic, consistent exposure, even when we're sleeping, right? Not just when we're awake. Because if that's all true, then what can we do? Proximity is a big one here. So having your phone on your face is much more intense and quote unquote damaging to your DNA and to your potential health than keeping it arm's length away. The other thing that people do that is just boggling to me, and I've seen there's a study out there where you can see the amount of EMF is having AirPods. These are AirPod Pros I bought before I got really serious about this, probably 3 years ago when they came out, and I don't use them ever. There's no reason for me to put a transmitter between my brain that is blasting my brain at an intensity, because the amount of power, again, the amount of intensity that you're exposing on EMF is directly logarithmic to the proximity. So if you put this device close to your head, you get way more exposure than having it out here. And you can kind of do a thought experiment, but imagine you have your phone and you're out here and you talk on it for 10 hours versus having it here for 5 minutes. There's arguments to be made that the amount of damage to your health is significantly higher with just that 5 minutes at that proximity. For my watch, I keep it on airplane mode all the time. I also have a tri-tune meter. It's about $200. You can find it on Amazon, and you can measure the RF strength of devices, of where you work. Things like turning your computer office setup, like I have here, into a wired setup, right? Because your computer's always right here in front of you and operating and emitting Bluetooth, Wi-Fi. If you're going to be on that thing constantly, why not just plug in a Wi-Fi? There's plenty of USB-C adapters there that give you wired connection. It's really not that hard to run a wired connection to your computer. You get better signal, it's less latency, you have higher call quality, and you're not dealing with the exposure there. But the big one here, focus on trying to switch to a wired earbuds. Apple still makes them for the iPhone 15 Pro. So if you're on the iPhone 15 Pro, get the USB-C. Call quality is great. I don't have any issues there. Yeah, it's annoying having my phone in my pocket when I'm lifting because I got to keep the distance of my phone, but I can switch it to airplane mode to listen to audiobooks. I can download from YouTube, podcast content I want to listen to. I can listen to Spotify and download that, keep it on airplane mode. And I'm not dealing with the proximity of having a transmitter on my head. I worry that individuals that do this over and over and over long periods of time are going to have DNA damage and health issues in their brain, and it's going to cause massive problems for their health long term. So there you have it. We got 3 things here for long-term health. Drinking water, huge, right? Light, and dealing with EMF. Making sure that you don't run into the problem of getting too much exposure, too much proximity to it. Who knows? It could turn out to be like what we thought smoking was, where we thought it was really healthy for us or just fine and not a health problem back in the 40s and 50s. And now we see all these incidences of lung cancer, and we clearly know it's not good for us. So I just think that why take that risk when all you have to do is slightly inconvenience yourself with getting in the habit of keeping your phone in airplane mode when it's on your person, not ever putting it near your face when you're using it, and using a wired instead of a wireless setup for earbuds. People leave those earbuds in themselves like for days, like they have them on 18 hours a day, just transmitting from their head. It's crazy. So I think this will help a lot. Thanks a lot, and I'll talk to you soon.